The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you. At a press conference at the Woodwards development, the new Save Our Streets, or SOS Public Safety Coalition, said the growing crime, violence, vandalism, and theft crisis is impacting local communities and businesses. The costs associated with addressing security and safety, according to SOS spokesperson Jess Ketchum, are jeopardizing the financial viability of many businesses and threatening their survival. The compounding effects of the rising lawlessness, according to Ketchum, include but are not limited to concerns for the safety of shoppers, concerns for the well-being of staff, and challenges to attract staff. As a result, business leaders and concerned citizens formed the coalition to call for a province-wide, non-partisan movement to raise awareness of the issues and the costs that are passed on to families, because ultimately that's who pays the price. The coalition has developed a 10-point plan demanding actions from government to fulfill its responsibility to address an entire suite of issues related to the current levels of crime, violence, and fear. I invited Jess Ketchum of SOS to join me for a conversation that matters about ways to combat crime and lawlessness. Jess, welcome.
Thanks, Stu. Thanks very much for having me.
It's really bad out there, isn't it?
It is, and when you say out there, it's everywhere. It's province-wide, it's across the country, it's North America. I mean, it's really a sad state of affairs, but you have to start somewhere.
In your own community.
In your own community. And so that's what we're trying to do.
So tell me about SOS. What are the different components, the different, elements of the community that are part of this coalition?
Sure. Well, first of all, it's important to understand that it's not just business. It really was initiated on the backs of some discussions with concerned citizen groups from different communities in BC, and recognizing that they needed additional support. They were interested in working with the business community who had resources. Mm-hmm. So myself and some others got together. We started blue skying, as one does, and realized that it was a real passion project for all of us, and that it wasn't just business that was being threatened. It was community safety, neighborhood safety, people going into stores, people with their families in parks, and a real problem. So we came together, we decided that it needed to be province-wide, it needed to be business and community, and we started talking to others, and it basically erupted, Stu. It was really quite amazing. This has only been in the last 3 or 4 months that we started talking about the concept. We now have over 60 organizations from around BC, from Dawson Creek to Fernie to Vancouver Island, basically as broad a coalition that I've seen in BC for dealing with these sorts of issues. We came together to talk about strategy. We've had a couple of town hall meetings to discuss with the broader membership. We've structured ourselves in a way that we have an oversight council, which consists of a number of senior people from these community groups and businesses. We then have 3 working groups, communications working group, a research working group, and a government relations working group. Their membership consists of pros, real professionals from the membership, and as you can imagine, we have some highly experienced people available to us on a volunteer basis as a result. So we've brought them together and we've talked about how we can move this thing forward. But the problem is that I refer to it often as a coalition of the frustrated, because really, I mean, how often you talk about conversations that matter. how often have we had this conversation about what's happening in our streets, what's happening in our communities, and getting the sense that we can't seem to do anything about it. So our task is to try to figure that out.
Part of it was you weren't even allowed to complain about it. For a while there, it was like, you're being insensitive. How dare you?
Yeah, I think there's something to that. I think there really is, and you know, maybe I'm just not that sensitive, but we got to the point where people do want to talk about it, and I think the reason that we've taken off in our organization in all this support coming together is that people are at that point. Maybe we are at that tipping point. That's not just, you know, the genius of us pulling this together. That's not what it's about. It's the momentum is there because people are ready to talk about it.
The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you. So what do you think has been the tipping point? What has suddenly, and I see it visibly, started to change public opinion about an attitude towards the so-called humanitarian approach that we were taking towards people who were repeat offenders or who were suffering with substance abuse or mental health? Something changed. What do you think that tipping point was?
Stu, I think that first of all, you mentioned those specific policies or programs. I think the public have gotten to the point where they look at that, they say it's like playing whack-a-mole. I mean, we have these policies and programs of government that create great debate. So whether it's safe supply or decriminalization or judicial reform or more police resources, fixing SROs, whatever it might be, it seems that you get into these great debates between the humanitarian and those that consider not so much, and when you look at the end results, it's worse. It's worse.
Yeah.
And you and I have experienced it right here in our hometown, where you see it every day, and it's just getting worse. And you know, I want to go back in time a bit when I say that we've had this conversation so often. You know, it was 2000 when our mutual friend Mayor Philip Owen initiated or announced or proposed the Four Pillars Project, and that was prevention, enforcement, recovery, and
harm reduction.
Harm reduction.
Right.
So when you move forward and you think, okay, those four pillars, obviously we don't have enough pillars. We need a bunch more pillars because we have more issues today than we had back then. Quite a few more because it's been let go for so long. So back in those days, I mean, there were 1,654 illicit drug overdose deaths in British Columbia between 2002 and 2010. So he announced
over an 8-year period.
Over an 8-year period. We'll have more this year.
In 1 year.
1 year. We'll have more this year than over those 8 years after Philip introduced the Four Pillars program. So then you leap forward to 2016, and the province introduced a public health emergency. Now, I don't know about you, but emergencies to me mean now. You need to fix it now.
You mobilize.
You mobilize. You need to fix it now. Lots of really good, highly intelligent, well-meaning people within government have tried working away at that. But I know that in 2016, there was 922 overdose deaths in British Columbia in 2016. There were 2,300 last year in 22.
Well, Troy Clifford, who is the president of the paramedics and dispatchers unit, says his members are dealing with 8 overdose deaths every single day. Every single day.
Yeah. It's just, I was going to say it's criminal. Well, it is criminal, and it's so unfortunate. And these people, I mean, we see them on our streets. They're sick. They need to be taken care of. And Stu, you know, I keep thinking of the overall issue of crime and violence in our neighborhoods, in our streets, in our towns, in our communities. And I think this is a very oversimplistic way of looking at it. But if you were able to take the people who were mentally challenged, who had real mental problems, and took them off the street, and if you took the people who were addicted to illicit drugs and took them off the street, your crime and violence would dissipate something incredible. I mean, it would go down so very much.
Okay, but Jess, you remind me of the fact that a whole bunch of really well-intentioned people going back to the 1980s said, no, you can't house these people. That's inhumane. That's unkind to them.
Right.
And so we shut down those very facilities that were designed to give them a safe place to be.
Right.
And we sent them supposedly back to their communities with no supports.
Right. So Stu, you're a business person. You know that if you make a mistake, the best thing you can do about it is stop, change it, and get back on track, right? And I think a mistake was made back then. I think people who were involved in making those decisions back then recognize today that it was a mistake. And the idea
universally, I think that's accepted as being a mistake.
I think so.
Yeah.
And so what needs to happen is that there needs to be a bigger focus on results, not on programs so much, right? So SOS as a strategic core strategy is saying, look, we're not going to be prescriptive. We don't have the expertise. We don't have the resources. We don't have the people who have been dealing with these issues forever. What we do is we recognize the problem. So we're saying to government, you have the expertise, you have lots of really smart people, you have well-meaning people for sure. You also have the financial resources because as taxpayers, we give them to you. And what you do have that we don't, you have the responsibility. You have the responsibility. So we're saying to government, we're not being critical, we're not telling you how to do it, we're saying, here's how we're going to measure the success of these programs. And
Isn't that called accountability?
It's called accountability. And again, we're not doing this in a threatening way to government. And by the way, it's government at all levels. It's not just, people assume that we're focused on the provincial government, but when you're dealing with judicial issues, policing, there are lots of issues, both municipally and federally as well.
The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you. Well, Douglas Todd, in a conversation that I had with him earlier this year, said this is a wicked problem, meaning there is no straightforward answer, but it takes a remarkably determined and coordinated effort.
Correct.
Yeah.
Stu, that I was involved with government many years ago now, but I was in Victoria for 6 years. I know that as issues rise up the priority ladder, as issues become more and more publicly
unacceptable,
talked about.
Yeah.
When people are having conversations about these issues around their dinner tables, it becomes more apparent to government that they have to do something about it, but they also have an opportunity to do something about it because they're then given license to whether they have to spend more money on the issues, or if they have to spend more time, resources, create a new ministry, do whatever. And I'd argue about having to spend more money. Quite frankly, I think there's lots of money in the system. However, that's up to them. So as the awareness level rises, it gives license to government to do more. And so I say that, and SOS says that we're going to raise the level of awareness of the issues around British Columbia, of the costs of those issues to the public. I mean, I can show you documentation that we're working on right now, Stu, that says that the cost of living for an average family in BC as a result of the crime and violence is $500 a year.
Per family?
Per family. Now that's significant. Now, we talk about mortgage rates, and we talk about inflation rates, and we talk about grocery costs, all those things, but you don't stop to think about, well, Save on Foods, member of our coalition. 7-Eleven, member of our coalition.
London
Drugs, member of our coalition. Rexall Drugs, member of our Lululemon, member of our coalition. You think about the expense that they've had to go to for security and the losses they've suffered as a result of shoplifting, organized crime, by the way, that they have to try to recoup those dollars from their customer.
Well, they have to stay in business.
They have to stay in business. So prices go up, cost of living goes up. And people, we don't think about that much. And
then there's all the other additional costs that don't necessarily get factored into products that you're buying, but there's the cost of law enforcement. There's a cost of confinement. There's a cost to the medical system. The costs are everywhere. And so I would contend that the cost of the average family far exceeds $500 a year.
Yeah, and we're doing some research to try to determine some of those costs, because I think it's important that people realize the facts, and somebody's got to give them the facts, and so we're trying to do that. We're getting some expertise involved, criminologists and others, to help us with that, and we want to first of all establish 3 or 4 key data points that we can use as KPIs, as key performance measures.
Yeah.
And so if we had 3 or 4 hard data points that's province-wide, that would be very helpful. Then we'll have 2 other forms of KPIs, one being public opinion. Again, province-wide, you can imagine doing the same study, good sample, province-wide, same questions every quarter, find out how people feel in their communities as to whether or not they feel that crime is going up or down, or whether it's whether they feel safe in their communities, whether that's going up or down, and then with business, to do a survey with business as to what they're experiencing as well. So we have those data points, those key measurements that we'll be able to say to government, here's how we're going to measure how we are going to be successful in solving these issues, and see where that goes.
What's the response been?
Well, first of all, the response from the community has been overwhelmingly good. I mean, it's been, thankfully, somebody's trying to do something, and it's not just the same. It's not just talking about decriminalization, safe supply, SROs. It's that something different is going to be tried. And I think people are ready for that. From government, we've had a number of responses from various levels of government. I have nothing from the federal government as yet, but they're in Ottawa. But we've only just launched, to be fair. I mean, and people are becoming familiar with who we are and what we are, and I think they're taken back when they realize how fast this has grown, how big it is. That these are 60 organizations from around the province that are credible organizations in the community, and are all in it for the right reason. They just want to see the problem fixed.
The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you. Do you get any encouragement from the language from the Premier lately? Because he has clearly started to move away from being as magnanimous, let's say, and has raised the point You can't tell me what we're seeing on the streets right now is humane, because it's not. It is inhumane. So does that give you some encouragement?
Well, I think it's cause for encouragement. I think it is. It's cause for optimism. I think that no politician in Victoria today is more experienced with it than he does.
None.
And but where we come from is that he is in government today. He has the levers of power. He has the ability to do what he thinks is right when it comes to solving these issues. The opposition is the opposition, so that they get to criticize whatever it is that he does.
Yeah.
And they also have the opportunity to put ideas forward on how to solve these issues. So the government, if they put ideas forward, they better put them into play. They better implement, right? And where the opposition doesn't have to do that. So you have to weigh those things. One is a promise, and the other is in government today, and they have to act.
Well, then he also has jurisdictional challenges as well. We know that he was really unhappy with the wording in the criminal code now that doesn't address issues with repeat offenders. It looked like there was maybe going to be some movement on that. Then the legislation died.
And I'd suggest to you that might be an area where groups like Save Our Streets can have some influence. So, what we don't want to see is one level of government pointing fingers at the other level of government and saying we can't fix this because they won't do X, Y, or Z. That doesn't work. I mean,
No.
It just doesn't work. It doesn't help anybody. So I understand that in some terms it's a reality, but the fact of the matter is, if the provincial government can't get the federal government to do something, well, fix it. Shame on them.
Or become creative and come up with another way.
Come on, right?
Yeah.
That's your job. You have interprovincial staff that are bright people. Get them to fix that problem. But maybe we and other citizens groups can again raise the level of demand for change. And when the public are raising the level of demand for change, governments will pay attention, especially when you're in an election cycle.
So how important is it that the rest of us give a damn about this and speak up? Because if we don't speak up or give a damn, then we've given up hope.
Yeah, well, we can't give up hope because we all have a responsibility to fix these things. The people that we see out there who are mentally challenged and don't seem to be able to get help, the people out there who are addicted and can't seem to find their way, we need to help them.
Yes, we do. That's being humane.
Yeah, we need to help them. And so we have to understand the criminal elements play in this as well. But we have law-sick people that criminals are preying on. And we can't allow that to go on forever.
No.
We have to bring a stop to that, Stu. And I think most people will agree with that. So, we have to focus on our policing, our judicial system for that side of it. But right now we have drug addicts going into stores with shopping lists given to them by the criminal element to actually steal this stuff, high value products from stores, and take them back for resale.
Yeah.
And all the person that's doing the shoplifting is doing is trying to feed their habit. It's just, it's easy to get passionate around issues like this. And I find that when we talk to other people like yourself, everybody feels the same way. We need to do something different. So, was it Einstein that said to do things over and over the same way and expect different results? Insanity. Well, somebody said that.
Well, a lot of people give him credit for things that he didn't say. But
yeah, right. Well, yeah, good for him.
Yeah.
So, that's why I think that we have the opportunity to do something different. We'll do it in a different way. We're bring a whole bunch of really good people to the table to have these conversations so that we can try to help the government do the right thing.
Well, I wish you great success, and I encourage anybody who has an interest in supporting you to reach out to the SOS Coalition.
Can I give you an email address? So people certainly can reach out to us. info@saveourstreets.ca. info@saveourstreets.ca. Website will be up shortly, and it'll be saveourstreets.ca as well. And you can join with us. It doesn't cost anything as long as you have a shared concern over what's happening in our society and wanting to actually see improvements made and something done about it.
Thank you, Jess.
Thanks, Sue.